Hi there, Gavin here from Death Toll Racing. We are back under the rear end of the Safari Wagon. We are going to do the bump stops today. I have a bunch of other parts here that are irrelevant, kind of irrelevant to the bump stops, but we need to reference them to know exactly where these bump stops need to be elevation-wise so that we get it to bottom out right where we want it to bottom out completely. So, from my left to right, this is the King 2.0 by 4 hydraulic bump stop. So what these things do, instead of being a rubber bump stop that will basically kind of cushion the bottoming out, this will do the same, except the harder you hit it, the more resistance it will have. So if you hit it real slow, you know, kind of softly, it will be kind of soft. If you hit it real abruptly, it'll be pretty hard. And then the perk to it is it'll slow you down slowly, so you're not just hitting real hard, and then it won't rebound you like a rubber bump stop would, where it'll throw you up in the air right after you hit it, and you bounce, because this thing isn't going to come out. It's not going to just push it right back out. It's going to come back out slowly, so it won't spring you. It's a 2.0 by 4. It actually has 3 inches of travel, so don't be confused by that 4. I think the 4 has something to do with the pistons inside. I actually have no idea where they get that number from. It has to be something to do with the spacing between their pistons inside of it or something. I'm not sure where that number comes from. The 2.0 by 2 has 2 inches of travel, so but the 4 only has 3. Just so you're conscious of that when you're looking at them. This is the sleeve that they sell you optionally to the bump stop. It kind of seems like they're expensive when you're looking at them online because it looks like it's just a tube with an end welded into it, but it is a little bit more than that anyway. This tube is completely machined. It's bored all the way out, and then it's bored out to a larger diameter from here up, and then a smaller diameter, basically from the bottom 3/4 of an inch or maybe an inch down. It's a tighter diameter, so it actually fits on there pretty snugly. And the reason they do that is that there's a number of reasons. One, when you're welding on this, it's going to distort, and so now there's clearance and stuff in there. And they assume you're going to be welding up in here, which is most likely where you will be welding on it anyway. And then also, as you're using this thing, you're not going to be wearing this whole shock body. And thirdly, it'll actually hopefully come apart when you go to service this thing after being used quite a bit, being only tight right here. If this were tight the whole way and say that thing got rusty inside there, that would be a bitch to get out of there. So that's the rear coil overs. Fronts are the exact same. Same bump stops for the front. This is all their coil over brackets. These are the rear, and there's 3 because I don't know if I'm going to use these ones on the axle or these ones on the axle. I designed 2 different styles, and that depends on where our fully compressed suspension is going to be, and if I need an extra inch or so of length in my coil over, I can run these ones. These are more ideal for angle. But these ones will be, these will give us a little bit more height. So I'd like to run these ones, but if we have to, we'll run these ones. And these are the uppers. The reason these things have such big holes is we're actually running bosses on these. And the reason I'm running bosses just on the rear is just the upper one. The upper mount, I want it as close to the floor as possible, but I need to brace it so that we don't over torque on our tubes up there. But the problem is this part right here is going to interfere with the shock body if we run it all the way up to the spherical. So we actually have to space it out. So and that's where the boss will come in. So we'll actually weld the boss in there. So it'll come out to the spherical. And then we'll run a longer bolt. So these will be welded into here, and then we'll just drill it out once we're done. And anyway, so that's how that boss will work, and that's just so that this will clear the shock body. So picture this being a spherical going in that way, and we wanted this in tight, but see how the shock hits there? That it'll kind of be the same thing with the coil overs. That the body of the shock there would hit in here. The shocks are meant to be mounted this way. But in our situation on the top here, we need to mount it off the side. So that's why we have kind of the situation we're in. The front is normal. This is the front upper. That will be mounted that way. And then this is the front lower, and it'll be mounted, that way. The bottom here would have worked just having normal bolts, but since we're doing bosses on the top, I figured we'd do bosses on the bottom. This is the rear bump stop. The leaf spring perch is what we were going to use for our bump stop perch, but we are going to have to move it out towards the tire a little bit. So that's what this is. This is just an extension to that, and then this is just a little brace that will go underneath it. The bump stop is here, or the leaf spring perch is here, and then the axle tube obviously is here. So that'll just be a support, so that doesn't try to bend when it gets hit by the bump stop. This was an alternative to this, but it looks dumb, so we're not going to use it. These are going to come up a lot here in the future as we're running all our lines. This is going to be our mounts that I'm going to weld all over this car, all over the suspension, all over the axles and everything. This is just tubing mounts, so I just made a whole bunch of them. These are just thread insert rivets, so we'll just rivet those in, and that's how we'll mount everything. These are 1/4 20 nut zerts, so everything will just be mounted up via those. So that'll be pretty cool. So we got 60 of those. Hopefully that's enough. So I need to get this axle in this car so we can figure out our heights and stuff, and then we'll measure up the front and make the rear kind of match it. So here I go. All right, if you guys have been following this build, I still have those chintzy chains on the rear end that we were using for the empty housing. And there you go, one finally broke. That was really dumb. We were just about done with them. They almost made it the whole thing. But don't worry, I was underneath it and I caught it and slowed it down on the way there, and I have all the bruises to show you for it. So don't do that. That was stupid. Here I'm just raising up the axle. I'm gonna get it all the way bottomed out, figuring out exactly where it is, and then I'm gonna kind of put the rear end up at the same height so that we can get our bump stops in, so it bottoms out at the same time the front would bottom out. And then once I get that, then we can get going on placing our bump stops and figuring out where our coil overs and stuff are going to go. All right, today's a new day. I left it yesterday. I got the rear end in there, and that was as far as I got, because those chintzy chains that I've been using, and now that I have brakes and wheels and tires, and then I was being kind of aggressive with them when I was putting the control arms on. I don't know how good any of that will come up on time lapse, but one of the chains broke, of course, while I had it all the way up. So it swung down while I was trying to hook the bottom controller. I was trying to actually rotate the axle is when it broke. But anyway, it's stupid. I shouldn't have been using those. They were just barely adequate for doing the housing, and now I'm starting to add all this stuff on the axle, and I haven't beefed up my chains. So just a common mistake, a stupid thing. So luckily we didn't hurt anything. I'm lucky I didn't hurt the quarter panel on this side where it went. So this is basically the axle all the way up. So we actually can fit it barely in there. That's actually extended, so it'll be lower than that in there. So it kind of looks funny to me because we have so much more arch in our frame, and we just don't need it. But that's just because it's a car, and we just have an over arched frame. So basically, we just have to build something that goes in there. There's a bunch of things you have to be mindful of. In this situation, our coil over is on the inside of our bump stop. That's usually not the case. Usually the bump stop would be inward, and then in that situation you have to be mindful of an articulated, in full articulation. If this were up and that were down and the bump stop were in, the coil over will actually be compressed farther than the bump stop will limit it. So you have to be mindful of that when you're setting everything up, because you don't ever want to bottom out your coil over. Us being on the outside, that won't ever be the case, because on both situations, even in an articulation stance, it's actually going to compress the coil over less. fully articulated, and then in a jumping, landing situation, will be when when the whole rear end goes down, will be the most the coilover will be compressed. So that's kind of how I have it set up right now. On the front, it'll be opposite. Our bump stops are going to have to be on the inside, so we are going to have to think about it in an articulated type scenario. Granted, we probably won't ever be hitting things hard enough, to in an articulation type situation to ever completely bottom out the bump stop, I would hope, but you never know. You don't want to bottom out your coilover, and that would just be a bad day, because those aren't cheap. So another thing we have to be mindful of, now that I don't have to run our adapters. I don't have to. I have to make sure that the coilover isn't going to hit our bump stop. I don't think it will like this, but I am going to just go ahead and tack our ears on just to make sure, so I can measure. It's 4 1/4 inches is the OD of that coilover, which puts it about, that's 2 1/8. So we'll just say 2 1/2, just so we have room. I have to make sure that at all points it's going to be 2 1/2 inches away, figuring this is going to be down here. In a fully once this is actually mounted up, so I need to account for that diameter down here. So anyway, so I'm going to get going on making some of those ears up and bosses, and I'll show you what I got when I get it done. Okay, so I went ahead and after I welded those up, I welded 2 tubes on the end of this 1-inch square tube, and then this is basically simulating a fully compressed strut right here, and then I think I'm going to end up making the exact same thing. I cut extra parts, so I think I'm going to make a ride height strut so that we can actually put them in and set this thing on the ground. But we'll see. Either that, or I could cut this tube, find another tube that slips in and out of, and actually pin it in different heights after we get all these ears and stuff tacked on. The reason I did it is just make it easier, so we're not sitting here measuring everything non-stop, and then aligning the ears now is easy because they're obviously pretty in line, because I was pretty careful when I put it together. Everything looks really good. We are going to have to run those pads so we can get this. This is the sleeve for the bump stop. We are going to have it out a little bit, because this. Let me see if I can get that to stay right there. The coil over is 4 1/4 inches, so basically it's 2 1/8 inches from the center of that tube out is how far away we need to be from our sleeve here. So which means we have to have it kind of like out in here, which is perfect. That's exactly what I designed it for, and that'll actually make it a little bit easier to put this thing together anyway. So what we're going to end up doing is this will just be in here like this, and then we're just going to build a little frame that will house our sleeve, that'll weld just going across, and then it'll probably have a brace going up, along probably the inside of this thing, and then it'll continue up and tie into the frame up there, so that it doesn't bend our tube there, or possibly the frame. It could try to taco the frame down, if we were to hit real hard. I doubt that would actually happen, but we will plan for it to happen. We'll actually brace it up there. So hopefully it'll try to keep it from happening. All right, now how we're going to end up doing that, I kind of changed my mind a little bit. We're going to end up just plating the arch in. So I have Akila out here, and she's just helping me trace the frame so that I can cut out a plate. So we can just actually like box this area of the frame in, since we don't actually need that arch there anyway. Okay, so here's the cardboard that Keela traced for me. Now I'm going to use a compass. I need to transfer that line up, and you use a compass. You hold it so that it's always parallel with your line, and that way it makes a nice uniform line above it.
as you can see, like if you were to measure the diameters of the circles, of the arcs that you're creating, the line I just drew on the top there has a larger diameter than the bottom one, and so that's why you use the compass to do it instead of just sliding that line up. You want to do it that way, and that way it looks more uniform on the frame. When we go to weld this thing on there, it'll fit the frame much better than if you were just to cut it out on the line she traced and then slide it up the frame.
All right, I got a little shop hack for us. You know, I'm in a situation right now where I need to make a notch in this tube so that this tube can be, you know, go through that tube but offset in the side. So obviously you can't just use a hole saw next to it, or it's just going to wander all over the place. You know, because we wouldn't have a pilot. So it actually works really good, almost better than normal. If you just clamp a 2x4 off to the side there. It works really, really good. You can just find your center on your 2x4, and then you can just drill right into your pilot and just leave it there and just go ahead and cut your notch right through while you're also cutting that 2x4. So here we go. So in my situation, I actually have to cheat a little bit and get my hole saw down. Oops, hole saw fell out. Well, there we have it. Other than you got sawdust all over it, we have a really nice notch now. So it fits really good. Simple as that. Super simple shop hack, but it's something I've been doing for years and never really have thought twice about it. That, you know, maybe someone else would have not come up with that. I've had to do it a number of times, so I've been doing it for a long time that way. So anyway, there you go.
Okay, so there I have it up there. I got the plates all cut out and cleaned up, and I got my clearance and everything, so we can get to the nut on the top of the on the top. We still have some more. I end up adding more parts to this later, but this is where I'm at now. So I did a cardboard template again for that radius so that I could match the radius of the frame to that square tube. And then that's the tube that I just showed you the shop hack on drilling it with 2x4 next to it. And then you'll see that 1-inch square tube going vertical there. That's the fake coil over, and between there and the square tube, that's where our interference could be. So we have plenty of space. We're 2 3/8 there, so that should give us about a 1/4 inch while we're fully compressed on the suspension between the coil over and that tube. Okay, last part, I swear. So I want to try to keep it from pulling in and out. I guess it's not the last part. There will be a couple more parts. But and then also, I really don't want this just to be a catch-all for all the junk and everything that's in here. So I'm gonna make a removable cover on the wheel side, and then a permanent cover for this side, which I just did out of just a piece of exhaust tubing. So that'll go on there like that. And then I'm going to fully weld this in, and then we can unbolt it and everything from the other side, and we'll weld it in there too, so it's just a sealed area. And then that way there'll be a cover on it this side, and that way it's just not like a flat surface for stuff to catch on right on top of that cylinder on the nut and stuff. So probably unnecessary, but I'm going to do it. This will also help keep this thing rigid from trying to go in and out. It'll act as a gusset, and then we're going to put gussets in here and here once they come in. I have them on order. If they should be here any day. But otherwise, that'll be about it. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that thing in there. All right, there we have it. So I ended up making some covers. And that's so it is completely covered on the inside, so there's no access to it, no way anything can get to it. Those are the bolts. There's no way anything. That's just a split piece of exhaust tubing is what that is going up, and that's just covering that up so that debris and stuff doesn't build up on top of our coil over there. And then I just made a cover, so now we can install it in and out. And then I can take that cover on and off. The battery's dying on my light there, so I'll just turn it off. So anyway, everything's done back here. As far as like suspension parts and bump stops and everything. So really, all we're doing now, we just got to wait for our coil overs and bolt them in and hope everything still works like we planned, and it should. So I don't see any problems with it. I got our bump stop plates are on. They're still even hot. I get that little gusset thing, that didn't look too bad. And then all our arms and tabs and everything are welded on. So we are in good shape going forward here. Now I'm gonna jump right into doing the fronts. I'm not gonna do them today. I am sore from this rear end falling on me. I caught it, which was stupid. I should have just jumped out of the way. And then I had to try to set it down. So my back's all tweaked. I don't bruise. And I have some gnarly bruises on my side, my back, and my arm. But anyway, so that was my own fault. Those chains, I even commented in the earlier episode how chintzy they were. They were good for an empty housing, but I had a lot more than empty housing. I had brakes and wheels and tires and everything on it. The holes in the floor, completely unnecessary. I really am mad at myself for cutting those out. I should have thought about that a little harder, or at least just dented them. For the time being, but anyway, we have to make covers for those, and it was totally unnecessary. It would have worked with them the way they were. So I'm pretty irritated with myself. We may have had to dent them, but I definitely didn't need to cut them out. So, but that's okay. So I got everything done. That's just a piece of exhaust tubing with flat bars welded on the side, cut at a funky angle. So it kind of just made like an angled cover. So it just goes from nothing to there, and that's how you take that off to get the coil or the bump stop in and out. The inside is completely sealed, as you can see, so nothing can get to it from this side. So everything's done. I'm going to work on the front now, and we will see you later this week. Hopefully I can get somewhere on the front. Parts are starting to roll in now, so we have a lot of projects. I think most of the brake parts are here now, so we can actually start running brake lines. I'm still missing the master cylinder though, and the regulator and all that fun stuff. But that should be here soon, so we can get going on all that. I ordered brake cables. I found some brake cables that I think are going to work, and we will see. So yeah, we got a lot of projects, finishing projects to do. I can't wait to get that done so that we can start doing the body and stuff on this thing, and then get it running. I'm really excited for that. So stay safe out there, and we will see you later this week.